On me. All right, Democrats struggling to find a way to counter President Trump as their party's popularity is stuck at an all-time low. Leaders on the left trying everything from social media videos to cursing to steal some attention from the president. Trump is taking notice and has some tips.
They're just trying so hard, and it's not working. They've even now started imitating me, of all people. They want to imitate me. And they start using foul language, but they use too much of it. You know, you can't use the F word 7 times in one sentence. It doesn't work. It might work once every 7 news conferences, but you can't do it. You can't do it 7 times in one sentence. So I don't know. They're really they're in big trouble, that party.
So the party also trying to find a way to appease its base, that is marching in the streets and urging Senator Chuck Schumer to keep the government shut down. DNC Chair Ken Martin making clear that the rhetoric will stay ramped up.
If we reach that break the glass moment when all of our democratic institutions have failed us, right, and we are truly in a dictatorship and an authoritarian regime here has completely shredded the Constitution, then party doesn't matter, and then elections don't matter, and then the resistance looks completely different. But until we reach that moment, and we may be nearing it, Jason, don't get me wrong, the role of the Democratic Party is singular: to win elections.
And now senior White House officials are telling ABC that President Trump is likely to name the new $300 million ballroom after himself. This news is sure to set off liberals who are already worked up into a frenzy about it.
Here's a side-by-side of Trump's rendition of a ballroom with the Winter Palace Ballroom in St. Petersburg. Russia.
Yeah, Russia, Russia, Russia. We are living in that crazy, wacky, alternate universe that Obama conjured up that night.
Betty Ford, that's her at her desk. She once famously said, if the West Wing is the mind of the nation, then the East Wing is the heart. Well, it has been ripped out.
It's symbolic of the changes that Donald Trump's second term is bringing.
What do the images look like? Maybe a natural disaster, or more commonly these days, war or terrorism.
Jesse, the media, the legacy media, the liberals, they're losing their minds over this.
Yeah, ballroom gate. So do you know that when you have a state dinner, you have to use a tent and there's nowhere to go to the bathroom, so you have to have a porta potty? We are making dignitaries from foreign countries go to the bathroom in porta potties. This is a gift to the country, a gift to any other Democrat president. Barack Obama spent $400 million to do a basketball court and rewire a few pipes. This thing is a legacy. Of course he's naming it after himself. Trump steaks, Trump water, Trump wine. I'm not surprised. Greg understands also a well-timed F-bomb, nothing better than that. True. The problem is Democrats think Trump got to the White House through F-bombs. He didn't. They look at him as so one-dimensional. The guy can drop a few F-bombs, but he could also be the most tender man when he's comforting families in pain or orchestrating grand strategy with power players throughout the world, or a policy wonk. He's kind of a policy wonk. So this guy's multidimensional because he's a person, and he honed these skills over decades in the media. It's not something you can copy in a playbook. Politics is about people. The Democrats are so obsessed with identity politics, they don't know their own identity. They have to figure out who they are. And in a really simple way, Bubba did it, Barack Obama did it, they're going to have to do it themselves. Donald Trump became president because he was himself. Remember all those people, oh, he has to be more presidential. And he was like, no, I'm going to do it my way. I can be modern-day presidential, and that's why you see him strafing people with feces. The challenge all politicians nationally have is you have to embrace your base, and then you have to unite it with the moderate establishment part of your party, and then you have to peel off a slight majority of independents. That's how you win national elections. The problem the Democrats are having is there's this wide gap between their base and the rest of their party. Trans, open borders, no cash bail. There's no way the establishment wing can get out there and say they're for that stuff, because then they lose. So they have to lie about it, or they have to be sneaky about it, and then the voters can sniff that out. We can smell phoniness. Smell it right here at the set.
And hypocrisy, I imagine, Kennedy. I mean, you look at the building of this ballroom and you look back to Jesse's point of the Obama days and the building that went on then. And we rolled tape earlier.
Pipes?
Yeah, we rolled tape there on, like, the media was celebrating the changes made to the White House under Obama.
Yes, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter what they did under Obama. It was cause to throw a parade and maybe give him another Nobel Peace Prize. And it doesn't matter what happens with Trump. Do you realize that no one is talking about the Gaza peace deal? And if this were President Obama who had orchestrated that, it would still be on the cover of the New York Times every single day and probably for the next 5 or 6 weeks. I am heartened to know that our president is in fact so versatile. He is a tender wonk. I didn't realize we were going to put those two wonderful tastes together tonight. It is like a Reese's peanut butter cup of politics. But it just goes to show you, when you have Ken Martin out there, the head of the Democrat Party, talking about, he's not talking to independent voters. And that is arguably the largest voting bloc in the country. When he says that the singular cause for Democrats is winning elections, it's like, well, it should be about more than that. It should be about getting the government back to work, making sure that federal employees are paid, that servicemen and women can provide for their families. Because guess what? A lot of people who have government jobs, they don't have months and months of savings because they have been taxed to the gills like every other working American. So it better be about more than just our team winning. And that's why they're losing, because they need to come up with ideas that service men and women working hard in this country, regardless of party.
Greg, what did you think of President Trump offering those tips to Democrats who think that dropping F-bombs and raising the rhetoric, is going to take tension away?
It just shows you how selfless he is, that he's willing to share that information. Look, this so-called reporting on the ballroom would have been really great before Google. I mean, think about it. All you got to do is go on Google, AI, and go, were there any renovations in the White House previous to Trump? Can you give me the list of them and prices? If you did that, you would have done more reporting than everybody on MSNBC and CNN combined. Think about that. They assume you won't. They assume their viewers. They assume that their viewers are basically stuck to an IV of fake news. Just send it into my veins. Ballrooms, ballrooms, ballrooms. It's like, no, just go on Google and you realize what a waste of time. Now to your point, you got to remember, the left hasn't changed. We have. They hated Trump, right? They hate Trump, but they also hated Reagan. They hated Bush 1. They hated Bush 2. They hated Romney. They hated McCain. But the difference is the old Republican guard played by the rules of the left, meaning that we were gentle when in debates and in arguments. The left didn't have to be, because basically it was their turf. So what happened was, you get this guy that shows up, Trump, and he's not polite to the Dems. And they're the dominant culture, media, academia, entertainment. This was their turf. This guy shows up, shows their ideas no respect, and refuses to be docile to their idiocy. And what happens? They get more and more riled up. Charlie Kirk wasn't killed just because he was right. He was killed because he embarrassed the left. That never happened before, where people just came out and you go, okay, I'm going to dismantle your ideas in front of everybody else. You're not supposed to do that with the left. We know this, being in this industry for me, it's been 40 years. Can you believe it? That you always had to play soft with liberals. When they came at you, you had to treat them like you were talking to like a
crazy person.
A crazy person. I was going to say wife, but it's like, okay.
You couldn't get them upset.
You couldn't get them upset. So for example, if you had to tell your let's just say your wife something, it wouldn't be a direct statement. It would be a question. It'd be like, honey, do you think you should be following the GPS because the car is on the pier? You wouldn't say, honey, you're on the pier. This is ridiculous. Yeah. But you'll notice that when Republicans and conservatives used to debate with the left, it would always be posed as questions, and it would always be really gentle. And now that is not the case. The left depended on the expectation that we were respectful of their irrational emotions. Right now, that's not the case. They're spiraling. The only thing is we can't go back. Trump has opened the door for us to actually meet them where they are on their turf. They're no longer superior to us in this cultural war. We're with them. They hate it.
You know, Emily, can you imagine the day that President Trump has the ribbon cutting ceremony for the Trump ballroom?
It's going to be amazing. And then after that, we shall do the cha-cha-cha in the ballroom. Look, I think it's so telling in the entire Democrats Party's flailing right now that they're seeing themselves as drowning. And they've been framing this as essentially an apocalypse, right? We have the DNC chair saying that, you know, we're nearing a point where elections don't even matter. And that kind of hopelessness is sending this strong message to everyone that they don't see a future whatsoever. It is not about vitality and momentum, which is how Republicans are framing it and how they are seeing it. But the Democrats are just projecting essentially that we're half a step until, you know, rolling over and playing dead. That is why so much money is going, for the first time in a decade, Republicans surpassing Democrats in terms of the fundraising in this large volume scale. It's because that is what actually signals hope and prosperity and vitality. And when you talk about campaign law and crisis messaging, like that line between defend democracy and democracy is already dead is really telling. And one motivates turnout and one just depresses it. And so I see, frankly, that the Democrats have written their own eulogy already. They're already 6 feet under in their mind. So what they have left is flailing and swearing and F-bombs and focusing on building or erections erections of the buildings and demolitions and whatever those questions are, and putting the wrong photos up of the Buckingham Palace, right? Whereas the Republicans are focusing on actually building something, erecting it.
Focus less on erections.
That's exactly
More on
what my
elections.
message.
Yes,
One letter changes everything, Greg.
it certainly
Oh
does.
my gosh, thank you for that.
If you suffer from 4 hours of elections, see me.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.